Hello, hello, Dragon family. It is Thursday, 25th of April. Here we are. We've had gorgeous spring weather. It's dropping down a few degrees today, getting a little chilly, but still nice. Still wearing shorts. Excited about that. Excited to be planting seedlings for my garden and watching my beehives prosper. I split one this weekend, so I'm definitely all about spring. Love it. Winter, even though I love skiing, is not my favorite season. So grateful to be moving towards those late, long summer days with light until all hours. It brightens my soul. Let's say it that way. So this week, you'll notice I have the black and the white dragons here with me. Those are canvas prints that are in the layer. They're from the deck. I have a lot of those printed on canvas that I might make a post about it soon. I might put them on sale soon just to offer up the last ones, even maybe at my cost, just so they find their homes. But black and white dragon energy this week, because the group that I'm working with, I have my Entering the Dragon Realms group. We're in week 5. This was week 5 of the 6 weeks, so we finish next week. And very interestingly, the black and the white dragons showed up together instead of one or the other this week. And so there was a discussion that led to some questions that I figured I'd do a live on and share with everybody, because all the topics are always helpful or useful to somebody. So looking at the black and white dragons, the question itself, and I have to admit that reading through the entire thing as it was posted, I had to sort of paraphrase or get the gist of, because I think there's a subtle language barrier in what we're calling different things. So I'll just read the question as I understood it, and then I'll try and tackle it and hopefully be hitting the mark. So this is coming from one of our dragons, one of our dragon family. This Are Dragons KeyKeepers of the lines, meaning Leylines, solar lines, light codes, all the lines that lead to oneness and love. And then what is the relevance? Because if the black and white are key holders and they merge, they split to help create this realm, and they merge to move us back towards oneness, do they then become key keepers? And I think it's just a subtle language difference in there. But the bigger point of it is, what's the relevance of them merging for expansion? And how are they holding the keys and codes? So often you will see, especially on the back of the book, on my website, it talks about the dragons being holding the keys for our ascension process. They do hold the keys. They hold the codes and keys within them because they are the larger grid keepers. So their association with the lines is that they in fact made and built all the vectors. They built all the grids, and so they are inherently connected. They are the ones guarding them until they are passing off, and some have already been passed off, especially on the outer limits of the universe, to the Lyrans that are taking over. So the feline kingdoms, the golden winged lions, are taking over from the dragons, moving into 5D. It's a different structure. It's a different geometric. Instead of being 3-based, it's 4-based. So we've got 8-pointed stars instead of triangulations and multiple sets of trines, whether it's making configurations of 9 or 12. It's a different base system that we're moving into, and so the Lyrans can come in and hold that. So being that, when we talk about the black and white and how they split, little something to understand, and most of you can comprehend the concept of the crystalline core of the planet, that we have crystalline DNA that we're trying to move back and activate, that when the field had to move into polarization, when there was a movement into duality, full splitting into polarity, it was the black and white dragons that created that. And they came through the energy of the crystalline dragon. So the crystalline black and white create a triangulation. All the dragon energies are in trines. And from that crystalline, it splits. So when we move back up the trine, we move back from the separation at the base back into cohesion. You can imagine like going to the tip of the pyramid. There's multiple ways that manifests in our journey, even with our Merkaba and the configuration we're moving into next. what that does is they have to merge. So the male and female white energies and the male and female black energies within yourself go through a merging process into their own side, and then they can come together and the black and white merge. And I actually have that as well. I'll pull the card because it's might be faster than pulling a card to just pull the page in the deck, because it's one of the prints and I've got a giant copy of it up here. I do have some of them in 16 by 20. And the other one's way over on that wall. So it's going to be fastest for me to pull it from the book for you. And it's the dance of merge that they do, where they come into union. And what that does is move them back up into that vector up to the crystalline energy. So what's the relevance of them merging on our journey? What's the relevance of us merging them in our field? What that does is start bringing you into that inner core alignment where you can start activating your crystalline DNA and your full crystalline structure, your crystalline core. So always micro, macro. If you can recognize that Gaia has a crystalline core, then you can move into the micro version of yourself as your own planetary body, your own sphere, your own energy body, and that you have a crystalline core that is your seed point in the heart, and that those black and white oppositional energies can come together and merge in and through the gateway of the heart. There's a discussion in our forum recently about what is 0 point. What's a 0 point gateway? It's that same crystalline, it's the same gateway at the center of that crystalline core. It's a gateway that you have to move through in the center of your heart as you go through the ascension process, because literally we are moving through an inversion. You're going to be turned inside out, upside down, which is actually being righted to bring you into the fifth dimensional reality perspective point, which is so in contrast to where we are in 3D. It's literally an inversion, but it was the inversion to actually come into 3D. It was the splitting of what we knew. It was the splitting of everything to come into 3D. So the relevance for the energies of the black and white dragon and the keys that they hold for us is in coming together in that line of energy that then can move you into that crystalline gateway and all the activation of your crystalline pieces. That's where the keys and codes come in. So they do hold the vectors, but the dragons that work specifically with humanity are not necessarily holding the grids. The Council of Mu is there holding the grids and the tectonic plates, but that's because they are embedded within the energetic body that humanity is on. And so they are the closest gatekeepers for the earth, air, fire, water, black and white energies for us to move through, for us to integrate. So they do hold those keys and codes. Each of them do. The Leylines hold their own energies. So when I talk about them holding keys, it's not necessarily that they hold keys for the Leylines or that they are key keepers of the Leylines. They are actually grid keepers of all the Leylines. And I'm going to differentiate here because the question sort of said that, well, all lines, ley lines, solar lines, light codes, all lines that lead to oneness and love. Well, not all lines are like the direct path to oneness and love. They are part of the process. They are part of our structure, the geometric signature of Gaia's energy body. But they don't all, like the grid lines don't necessarily lead to oneness and love. The pathway through your heart does, that line, but that is a directional line. It's not a vector. It's not a grid line. So there is a subtle difference in that in English terminology of what a line is, whether it's a path, like a road or a path out in front of you, or it's actually part of the grid. And you guys know about ley lines. If you imagined the earth being covered with a giant network or spider web, that is how energy connects, passes information, it moves along very quickly. It's like the internet energetically of how it gets moved across and held. And so there is like this grid, if you want to call it like a net or a spider web around the planet that is all these electrical conductive pathways. Those are the ley lines. The solar lines or the solar ley lines are those which spread from here out to the central sun and through all the other planetary connections within that, the star systems. So those are lines that vector out, whereas the ley lines on the earth are literally encompassing. They are part of the makeup of this system. So they're more like this direction. It's sort of like on maps of the world, we have latitude and longitude lines. Those latitude, longitude are like the netting grid lines, even though they're not the accurate energetic ones. They're great for a visual of an idea or getting the analogy. But then if you took that and expanded it out directionally out towards the sun, that would then encompass the solar ley lines. And that would encompass all of the vectors and grids that the dragons are holding. So for me, the dragons definitely are key. They hold the keys. Does that mean they're key keepers? You could use that term, I would say loosely. They don't necessarily call it that because they have so many other roles, but they do carry the codes and keys for humanity's ascension process. They hold the keys and codes individually for us to access, because what they help us do is release all the dross and the debris and the rubble that is in our field that keeps us from even being able to activate those codes if we're in the presence of them. If we have them coming towards us, we can't see them, we're resistant to them just because of all this stuff in our field. Well, that's what the dragons do. So in a way, that's another way that they hold the codes. They're the ones that are helping us move the stuff out very, very quickly. So I hope that made sense. I know who asked it, and I'll just make sure that she's tagged in this to see it. But I thought it might be an interesting discussion for everyone. And if you have other questions that rise from that, the way I explained it, or maybe left something out in your opinion, or if you're like, but what about this part? Feel free to throw it in the comments and we'll add to it next week. But for me, the most important part of that is recognizing, yep, we have all these different lines. My path is internal, it's through my crystalline core, and to get there, I do need to work with a merge of the black and the white energies that the dragons carry. And so that's where the relevance of that comes in. They were the establishment of the path to create this reality, and they thus hold the keys, or the knowledge, the insight, the remembrance, the memories of, here was your path in, this means it's your path out, and the way to activate that for us. So hopefully that was insightful. I know I touch on it a bit in the book, but you know, sometimes discussion makes it easier to get. Some people can see things in writing, others need to hear it. I know my son's a very auditory learner. I'm visual. I have to see it. I have to grid it. I have to draw it, or see something visually represented, which is why I always like to bring the artwork in, or bring the card up, or try and draw mentally an image that you can follow, because that I'm very visual in that way. So have a blessed week. I'll see you sometime next week, maybe answering your questions. So email them, IM me with them, post them in the comments, however you want to get it to me. That's what makes these discussions each week so useful for you guys, because they're your questions. All right. So have a great one. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.